Hey guys, this is Chris, and I just wanted to do a quick little intro into my video, just to point out a few things. First off, check the description. I have a promo code for the Zino at like $270, I think it is, 260 something, with a promo code. Use my link and use my code, and that way I can get credit. I do get a commission. I'm in an affiliate program now with Banggood, and as I will mention in the video, you'll see that is 100% going to charity, and I have a goal to reach $1,000 by the end of this year to put towards that charity. So I'll explain that more in the video, as you'll see. But if you're looking for a Zino at a good price, just above 250 bucks, go for it. Right now with this new firmware release of 1151 and the new camera release, Zino is the best it's been yet. They've solved pretty much every issue except for where it slightly flies off in a crab walk, if you will. But it's not bad. It looks like it's actually improved some, at least with mine. Mine were very apparent. You really can't tell it in the video itself as much now. The only way I could really tell is just by being on the ground and looking up, and that's when I was able to notice it, but it did not show up much in the video at all. So what I'm going to do in the video that you're going to see, mine is a little different than others. You've seen some other videos, I'm sure, of people giving their opinions on the new firmware and showing you their flights and everything. I'm going to show you my flights, show you the screen recordings, but I'm also going to do a second flight with my controller that has the antenna mod to see if that affects anything differently. And I just want to point out one thing. It was pretty different. It was a completely different flight, really, using the stock modification and the antenna mod that I made. It was actually kind of surprising to me. So that's something you can look for in the video. So you're going to see two flights. The second part of the video where I show the antenna mod flight, I don't drag you through the whole video of the flight. I just pretty much am sticking to the screen recorder on that, and cutting it up in small little bits, and then I'll have some voice narration in there as well, just kind of explaining things as we go along through the flight. So that's pretty much all I wanted to point out to you. And other than that, I am very happy with this firmware. I can recommend it, and I was happy with 1148, but I think this is definitely better. This is a much better improvement, which you'll see in the video. So that return to home, bam, kicked in like that. And that, if you cared about that Hubsan drop, it's completely gone. And as you'll see in my video, it was extremely stable even in the wind. So in comparison to some other videos where the wind is blowing and it tends to push it down, mine did not do that at all. Perhaps it was calibrations, I don't know, but I was very impressed. I was very happy with it. So if you again want a Zino for just over $250, I've got 5 of them available. If you click the link in the description and use that link and use that code together, I'll get that credit. Keep that in my PayPal account till the end of the year, and you'll help me reach that goal of $1,000 to donate to my charity, which again you'll see in better described in the video. So that's all I have to say, and watch the video. Hey guys, today we are going to fly the Zino on the new firmware 1151. This also comes with, on the next day they added camera firmware. So all of that is loaded, we're all calibrated, all pre-flight stuff is checked. And by that, make sure you have a secure battery lock. check all your props, make sure they're nice and secure and tight, make sure they're not nicked up and in good condition. Do your calibrations. I've done a compass calibration, done the horizontal calibration, gimbal calibration, because I've changed to another location. If I always fly in the same location, then you can void out those calibrations, but just as a precaution I do my compass calibration. But anyhow, here we are on 1151, as you can see on the label, and the newest camera firmware update. And what we're going to do is we're going to fly out 1,000 meters over the dam here in this beautiful background. We're flying into the wind and then flying back. We're going to hit that 1,000-meter threshold, and then when you lose signal, see if it automatically returns to home, which, as you've seen in other videos, it does. But the one thing I want to avoid is losing any FPV, so we are going to test that with standard setup on this controller. And then we're going to use my upgraded controller mod, which I know I do not lose FPV. So if I hit that 1,000 meters, lose my control signal, keep my FPV, and it comes back into return to home. That's what the goal is here. The other reason for this is hopefully one day they'll lift that threshold and make it a longer range, like 1.5 or even 2 kilometers. That'd be sweet. So let's go ahead and just get started. I'm going to get everything set up, and then we'll get started on testing these out with the new firmware. Okay, so we're all set up and ready to go. I'm not going to take off from the ground. I'm just going to hand launch it. And I know a lot of people care about if it has that Hubsan drop when it takes off. So far it doesn't, unless you have wind. Anytime there's wind, it does affect, I think, pressure on the barometer, and it makes it go down. So we're going to do a hand takeoff, and let's see what happens. Get far enough back. Okay, so you can see it there. It's actually holding really steady. There is a pretty decent wind coming this way. Point it into the wind. Let's just let it hover a little bit. I'm very impressed with that right there. It didn't drop on takeoff, and it's holding steady in the wind. Sometimes it'll drop down depending on how hard the wind is, and right now it's a pretty good wind. I don't know if you can tell by any of the trees, but let's take it out and fly it now.
I'm just going to narrate through the flight portion of the video and just kind of go over what's going on and give you the information of the flight. First off, the very first thing you'll notice is it appears to be flying perfectly straight. Watching it from the ground, it definitely is veering off to the right just a little bit, but it's nothing near what it used to be. It used to be that I had a real significant right or left crab walk, if you will. And with this type of scenery, it's actually harder to tell. If I were going over something that had some good straight lines, you'd be able to tell. But like right here, you can kind of start to see. It does. You can tell that it is going off to the right. So the other thing is, I want to point out the camera quality on the Zino is just beautiful. It's a little bit high with the blue and the green in this video. It definitely didn't look like this on the day of the flight, but it's beautiful video. So if you're in an area where it's real vibrant colors, that tends to be a little bit too much color, but for where I was at on the type of day with the sun and the clouds and everything. It actually enhanced the picture and actually made it look better than real life. So as we approach the 1,000 meter or 1 kilometer threshold, you're gonna see that it stops. It'll get a disconnect, and then it'll reconnect and disconnect again. When it does that, it's an immediate return to home. So right here, just showing you, we're starting to hit that threshold, and it doesn't quite meet 1,000 meters, but it's very close. And here you're going to now see the disconnect, and it's going to reconnect to where the motors are locked, and then you'll see disconnect and immediate return to home. I mean, that's about as fast as it could ever be. So what this proves is, and it proves it even more with my antenna modification, which I'll talk about again when we see that portion of the flight. But what that proves is it's not a written number within the firmware to just stop and hit that wall and say you've reached your limit. That's the way I would think it should be. That's the way I would prefer it, to just say, hey, you've reached 1,000 meters max range, and it just stops right there. It doesn't go into return to home or anything. You don't lose any signal whatsoever. So what they've done is they've written it into the firmware to drop the signal at that point, so you get inconsistent numbers as to where that drops. It could be just under, it could be right at, or it could be right above 1,000 meters. So why they chose to do it that way, I don't know, but that's kind of strange. But as you see in this video here, it does work. So it's not a geofence, it's a signal drop is what it is. They've written it in there to drop the signal to force a fail-safe of return to home. That's exactly what it's doing. It's not hitting a geofence and making you stop and decide for yourself what to do. But the one thing you'll notice is in this flight, when it hits that fail-safe return to home, as soon as it turns around and moves a little bit, it goes right back into GPS mode, and you can take control of flight. And when you watch the flight with my antenna mod, you're going to see something completely different there. It's very interesting how it is just between the antenna mod, and I'm not quite sure exactly why, but there is a significant difference, which you're going to see when I take that flight. And I've had several flights with the standard controller. This was actually the first with the antenna modification. I wanted to make sure I did several flights of this firmware. I didn't want to just test it and get right out there and rush to make a video first. So I've been a little bit busy this week and a little bit quiet, just testing the firmware out and making sure it is something I can say, hey, this is good firmware, I highly recommend it. So now after so many flights, and today's flight in this video that you're watching here, I can say that this is very good firmware, and I do highly recommend it. Hubsan has done a great job, and most of the issues are fixed. The Hubsan drop, all the typical stuff we've been seeing. It still does dip when you're flying in low altitude, but as you see in this video here, flying at a higher altitude is perfectly fine, and that's how most of us fly. So I'll end it in my narration here, and you can watch the rest of the video. Alright, so that was much better firmware version. Flew out almost 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer, and signal dropped. It hit return to home like almost instantly, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want to be standing there wondering, oh shit,
is it going to return to home? So I never lost FPV, but the one thing is my FPV's got a lot of lag on my device here. So hopefully there'll be some difference with the next flight using the antenna mod. But all in all, I'm very happy with it. There's no drop. There's still some of that little bit of a crab walk, I think, just based on what I saw in the sky. On the screen it looks straight, but I think it's still going to be, in this video anyhow, I think it's going to be a little bit of a crab walk off to the right. So let's go ahead and get set up with the next one. Put a new battery in it, use the other controller with my mod, and let's just see what happens there. Alright everybody, now we're going to try this monster antenna mod here and see what happens when we hit that window. And sorry about the sun direction and all that. It's always the wrong way whenever I do these things outside. But so we're going to fly the same thing, same version, 1151. And the new camera firmware, we're going to do the exact same flight as we did on the standard transmitter with no mods. And we're going to fly and see what happens. Bugs. See what happens when we hit that window or that wall. So here we go. Again, it just stands right up and takes right up and kind of stands there real nice. It's not moving at all. It's not lowering. I'm very happy with that. So we see it lowering a little bit right now as the wind kicks up, but all in all, I'm happy with it. So let's take it off.
Okay, so right here we're going to start at 500 meters out, and we're going to just make this real quick and cut through everything much faster so you don't have to watch the flight all over again. You're going to see we're going to go up to 900 and some odd meters. And now, so we're getting ready to hit that limit of close to 1,000 meters, and then you're going to see we disconnect. And it feels like we're sitting there a lot longer, but something else happens at the same time. We go into return to home, and it says also that the battery is low and it's a forced return to home. So we hit that threshold of close to 1,000 meters and our low battery forced fail-safe return to home at the same time. So what felt like a long time to hit return to home was probably just some communication confusion between those two items. So I'm not concerned about that. But the one thing you'll notice right here is we never went into GPS mode. For some reason, flying with those antennas, we stayed in return to home the whole way back. So it's broken up and it's happening a lot faster. But it's been in return to home mode the entire way back. It never once went into GPS mode. So that doesn't really bother me because you can interrupt it, but it is very odd and something I actually just cannot explain myself right now. But that's one of the weird characteristics that I've noticed now with this new modification that I did with the antennas. So really can't say much about that modification. The only thing I think it'll be really good for is if they extend that range, and they're definitely a better, or supposed to be a better quality signal of antenna. So that's where that would come into play and be better.
One thing this one did with this antenna mod is it went actually shorter than the stock, which I'm gonna write that off because I can fly with the stock. I can do five flights out there, and each time it's a different threshold where it stops. So it's always just under 1,000 meters now, at least on this new firmware. The other thing was it did not initiate return to home as fast as it did with the other transmitter. Could have been a fluke. It's only been one flight. I would have to fly a couple more times to say the antennas affected that. which maybe they did, and automatic return to home took a good while before it kicked in. On the other transmitter, it kicked in immediately, and the other difference is it stayed in return to home the whole way. It didn't stop and go into GPS hold mode once we got our full signal back like it did with the other transmitter. So two totally different flights there. But I can't say I'm unhappy with either one. I don't know if I really care that it flies return to home all the way back or goes into GPS and then I take control myself, because I can cancel out return to home if I want. So I'm not sure. I would just have to play with this transmitter a little bit more using this antenna mod, and also in a high Wi-Fi traffic area I want to try it more too. But all in all, this firmware is definitely an improvement, and puts Zino in a almost perfect state for what that quad is, and for the lower prices you're getting it for right now. It puts it right in range where it should be. It's doing what it should be doing. The features are all working pretty well. That takeoff and hover, if anybody cares about it not dropping, that was perfect. So I'm real happy with this firmware update. I was a little concerned. It took Hubsan about a month till all of a sudden they came to life and said, hey, we have a firmware update. And the best thing is, I don't think they used a whole bunch of beta testers like they had been doing in the past, and I think that stopped a lot of confusion and helped them to focus more on it and actually test better themselves, because they did deliver a decent update here. We didn't take any steps backwards. So thumbs up, Hubsan. Congratulations, you gave us a good firmware. I highly recommend the Zino on this firmware 1151, and then all of its corresponding pieces of firmware that go with that package. And from time to time I'm going to be getting some deals from Banggood. I'm an affiliate with them. I'm in an affiliate program with them now, and I'll be offering deals on the Zino and things like the Themes, and I will be getting commission off of that. It's not very much, but I have if you're in my Facebook group, you already know, I have a post in there set up that all proceeds of any money I make, 100% of it goes to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Children's Hospital. So my goal by the end of this year, January, or the beginning of next year, January 2020, I would like to have a minimum of $1,000 to donate to charity. If I am just under that goal, I'm going to just add the money myself and at least make it $1,000 donation. So that's my goal, and that is why I've done the affiliate program. So anything that I share in my Facebook group for deals at Banggood, if you use the link I provide and along with the code I provide, then I will get a commission for that. Say if you buy the Zino at $270, I think I might get $10. I don't know. It's not much, but it all adds up if I do it enough and I stay aggressive with it. So anybody that takes part in that and buys something off my links and helps towards a charity, that makes you a part of the charity and part of the donation, and I really appreciate it, and thank you very much. So that's the end of it for the testing on the Zino with the new firmware 1151, and click that subscribe button, hit that bell. You'll get future notifications of other flights and other tutorials and information. And as always, on your way out the door, do not forget to hit that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. That's what kind of helps my algorithm and makes my channel popular and can bring more subscribers in. So if you don't like the product, don't take it out on me and give me a thumbs down. If you personally don't like me and you have to give that thumbs down, go for it. But as childish as that is, just fight it and give that thumbs up and help somebody out here. And support everybody's YouTube channel. I can't name them all off, but I'll put links in my videos from time to time supporting other YouTube channels. So always support the little guys and help us grow. So that's it for today, and hopefully you can see me and hear me well. and I'm gonna go and start my next flight with my next quad. Thanks, take care.